There is a quiet ache in lives that look fine on the outside. You wake up, you do what's expected. You think the right thoughts. Try to feel grateful. Speak of alignment and energy. And still, something isn't shifting. It's as if abundance stands just on the other side of a glass wall, visible yet unreachable. You sense the potential. You sense the life that could be, but it doesn't land. It doesn't root. And over time, even that sensing becomes numbed. But what if abundance is not outside of you, not a future you chase, not a reward for being good, not a gift to be earned? What if it's a frequency already pulsing inside you, but unplayed, like a sacred instrument gathering dust in the dark corners of your inner temple? Neville Goddard once said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not visualize, not hope, but embody, enact, become." And Joe Dispenza reminds us, the body is the unconscious mind. When you feel, you program, you shift biochemistry, you instruct the field. So many are trying to change their lives with thoughts alone, while vibrating lack through every fiber of their being. The mind says, yes, but the heart trembles. No, the soul reaches forward, but the body clings to the past. And that contradiction becomes the signal the universe listens to. What if the very thing you're overlooking, the imaginal act, is the missing signal your field has been waiting for? A single gesture, internally real, emotionally alive, viscerally believable. That's what the field responds to. Not effort, not performance, but coherence. Not someday, now. And in this very moment, you will learn how to unlock that act, how to become the signal, how to step into the skin of your abundant self, not as fantasy, but as frequency, not to pretend, but to remember. Let yourself sink into this. Breathe with it, not to understand, but to remember. The door has always been within you. You are not here to chase, you are here to resonate. And as you listen, if this already stirs something deep, if you feel the resonance like a vibration you've long forgotten, let this be the moment you align with others walking the same path. Subscribe, share this, not just as content, but as a declaration, a ripple in the field that says, I am ready to return to the truth of who I am. Now, come with me. We're about to cross a threshold. What if the real reason you haven't unlocked abundance is because you've been imagining with your mind, but not with your being? Let's feel that truth together. Mini-step practice. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, inhale deeply for 4 counts, then place your hand over your chest as you exhale for 6 counts, softly saying, I am safe to become. Notice any warmth or softening under your palm. This living sensation is the true signal of your body responding. You may have sensed abundance like a melody trapped behind glass, visible but distant. That happens when we imagine with our minds but wire our bodies to lack. Neville Goddard taught, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not by picturing scenes, but by embodying them. Joe Dispenza reminds us that when emotion and intention unite, the body rewires and the field responds. You've just experienced the opening of that field in 2 minutes. Carry this felt vow into your daily routine. I am safe to become. I embody abundance now. Let's build on this practice as we move forward. There's a pain that doesn't always speak in words. It hums beneath the surface of smiles. It hides behind phrases like, I'm working on myself, or everything happens for a reason. It's the sorrow of knowing that something greater is possible, but not feeling it in your bones. You read the books, you listen to the podcasts, you speak about energy and vibration, but still, when you close your eyes at night, there's that familiar tightness in your chest, that quiet panic in your belly, that subtle trembling that whispers, I'm not there yet. Why does this happen? Because while your mind might know the language of expansion, your body still speaks the dialect of old wounds. The body doesn't lie, it remembers. It stores the echoes of childhood scarcity, generational fears, past disappointments. It holds on to the muscle memory of not enoughness. It clings to the identity of the one who almost gets there, but never quite. And in the quantum field, this dissonance isn't ignored. The universe doesn't hear what you say, It listens to what you are. It feels what you feel when no one is watching. The sensation of guilt when you think about receiving more. The buried fear that having abundance might disconnect you from those you love. The unconscious belief that you must suffer to be spiritual. So many repeat affirmations with their lips while vibrating fear in their hearts. They envision wealth, love, freedom, but their nervous system is still bracing for disappointment, still preparing for loss, still tethered to stories where abundance only comes through sacrifice or struggle. And the field listens, not with judgment, but with precision. It matches your coherence, not your hope. It mirrors your core frequency, not your surface desires. Can you feel that now? That quiet gap between your conscious longing and your embodied signal? Place your hand gently over your solar plexus. Just there. Feel that pulse. That is where so much of your past lives. That's where stories of lack got lodged before you even knew how to name them. Breathe into it, slowly, and as you exhale, just whisper to yourself, I see you, and I'm ready to soften. Because before we can shift the signal, we must first witness the one we've been sending all along. Now that we've seen the frequency of absence within the body, what happens when we try to create a new reality using only the mind? There's a difference between a thought and a signal. A thought can be light, fleeting, like a spark that flashes and vanishes before it finds ground. But a signal, a true signal, vibrates. It hums from the marrow. It radiates from the center of your chest like a sun remembered, not invented. Neville Goddard never spoke of creative visualization the way it's often taught. He spoke of imaginal acts as the living embodiment of a fulfilled desire, not a fantasy, not a movie in your mind, but an incarnation where the scene plays not in your head, but in your cells. Most imagine with the mind. They see a new car, a new home, a new version of themselves, but the image is flat, silent, emotionless. It does not breathe. It does not move the body. It's like watching a fire behind glass, warm to look at, but never warming your hands. To imagine with the being is something else entirely. It's to feel the weight of the keys in your pocket, the softness of clean sheets in the home you now call yours, the unspoken ease in your breath when the bills are paid, and there's still more left over. It's not about picturing it. It's about inhabiting it, fully, emotionally, physically. Greg Braden reminds us, the heart is the true modulator of reality, not the brain. The field doesn't respond to intellect. It responds to coherence, to congruence between thought and emotion, between belief and biology. Can you feel the difference? Close your eyes. Imagine the scent of safety, the texture of freedom, the sound of your own voice laughing without worry. Let it rise, not as a picture, but as a presence. Because until you imagine with the fullness of your being, your signal remains faint, your field remains confused, your abundance remains unsummoned. And the question arises, what happens when your mind envisions wealth, but your body still trembles with fear? What is that gap between the vision and the vibration? Let's listen to that next. You say the words, you light the candles, you visualize the life you long for, but beneath the surface, another rhythm plays, a quieter one that trembles, not sings, one that doubts, not declares. You think abundance, but you feel anxiety. You speak of expansion, but you breathe in tight, shallow sips. It's like programming a GPS for a destination, but refusing to leave the driveway. You set the coordinates, but your body won't move, because part of you is still standing in the doorway of a house built from old beliefs. Part of you is still listening to a voice that says, it's not safe out there. Stay small. Stay known. This is emotional dissonance. It's not resistance. It's confusion. It's the body trying to follow a signal that changes with every heartbeat. The field receives your intentions. Yes, but more than that, it receives your contradictions. Neville spoke of the assumption of the wish fulfilled, not as fantasy, but as felt reality. When that feeling isn't anchored, when the body still broadcasts fear while the mind declares abundance, the field reads static, not music. Imagine trying to hear a symphony on a radio with a broken antenna. The notes are there, The song is playing, but what reaches you is distortion. The melody is swallowed by interference. That's what happens when your body doesn't believe what your mind is saying, when your nervous system is still braced for a fall, even as your lips speak of rising. And the field doesn't punish this. It simply mirrors it, with precision, with honesty, so the life you want doesn't reject you. It just waits for you to become clear enough to receive it. Feel into this. What parts of you are still vibrating lack, even as you speak of abundance? Where does your body not yet trust what your spirit has seen? And if there were a way to harmonize those frequencies, to bring your inner music into tune with your highest vision, what would that sound like? We're almost there. There's a way to bypass the noise, to live the frequency of your desire before it arrives. And it begins with one final step. There is a moment we rarely imagine, not the moment of receiving, not the climb, but the breath after, that sacred silence that follows fulfillment, the moment where the longing dissolves and all that remains is peace. Neville spoke often of this. He did not teach us to climb toward the dream, but to stand inside it, to feel not the wanting, but the having, not the arrival, but the already arrived. This is the imaginal act, not a scene of chasing, but a stillness of having, a knowing so complete it no longer needs proof. When you imagine from desire, the field hears absence. But when you imagine from fulfillment, the field hears completion. It hears wholeness. It hears truth. Try this now, not as instruction, but as invocation. Imagine not the moment the money comes in, but the moment after you've paid everything, after the worry has melted, after the pressure has dissolved. Feel the exhale, the spaciousness in your chest, the warmth in your shoulders, the weight no longer sitting on your back. That is the signature of arrival. You don't need to see the check. You don't need to visualize numbers. Just feel the body you become in the after. Because the field doesn't understand dollars. It understands relief. It understands freedom. It understands the way your breath changes when you are no longer in lack. Emotion is the code, the language, the transmission, the wordless prayer that writes itself into the quantum. And when you speak this language, when you imagine not with hope, but with gratitude already felt, the field begins to rearrange, not because you forced it, but because you finally matched it. This is not pretending, this is remembering. But what if something deeper still resists this remembrance? What if, beneath all the practice, there is a quiet fear of truly becoming the person you wish to be? Let's listen to that silence and see what it reveals. There's a doorway many stand before, but few walk through, not because they don't want what's on the other side, but because stepping through means leaving behind the familiar ache of who they've always been. The desire is real, the vision is clear, but beneath it, in the quiet caverns of the unconscious, there is fear. Not fear of failure, fear of fulfillment, fear of the unknown peace that abundance brings, fear of being someone you've never been allowed to become. The body holds on to identity like an anchor, even when the identity hurts, even when it limits, because the known, even when painful, feels safer than the vastness of a new self. This is the paradox. We want the new life, but we fear the death of the old self. There are loyalties inside us, silent, ancestral, emotional, loyalties to struggle, to lack, to limitation, to the way our parents lived, to the stories we inherited, to the quiet belief that says, "Who will I be if I am no longer the one who strives?" Sometimes the fear isn't about what abundance will bring, but about what it will take away. The sense of belonging through shared hardship, the identity built around effort, the comfort of waiting. Imagine this. You stand at the threshold of a wide open field, sunlit, expansive, unscripted, and behind you, a house you've outgrown. Its walls are tight, but known. Its windows small, but familiar. And in that moment, part of you turns back, not because it's better, but because it's yours. This is the quiet sabotage, the invisible hesitation, the internal pause that stops the signal just before it reaches the field. It's not because you're weak. It's because the body needs time to trust the unfamiliar. It needs compassion, not pressure. It needs witnessing, not correction. So place your hand gently over your heart. Feel its rhythm, its honesty. Whisper this softly, like a sacred vow. I am safe to become. And now, with that vow sealed in your cells, let's begin to embody the frequency of this becoming. Not someday, but now. There is a sacred intelligence in the way the body remembers. It doesn't need evidence. It doesn't wait for permission. When emotion and intention join, truly join, the body believes. The field responds. Reality bends. Joe Dispenza reminds us, the brain doesn't know the difference between a memory and a deeply felt experience. It responds to what is felt, not to what is true. And when we bring the heart into coherence, when we let the feeling of abundance rise again and again, we are not imagining, we are instructing. You become your future self, not by reaching toward it, but by rehearsing it, internally, repeatedly, lovingly, as if you are an actor in a sacred play. And the script is already written in your soul. This is not about pretending. It's about becoming familiar with the frequency you wish to live in. It's about teaching the body a new emotional signature, like tuning an instrument each morning so that the music of your day rings clear. Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes where you close your eyes, breathe, and step into the version of you that already lives this life, not to chase it, but to normalize it, to make it so emotionally real that the nervous system no longer questions it, so the field no longer waits. Feel the posture of that self, the pace of their walk, the softness in their voice, the light in their eyes. Let that presence rise inside you, not as hope, but as resonance. Do this gently, do this daily, and soon, it is no longer imagination, it is identity. And when that shift takes root, life begins to echo it back, not as reward, but as reflection. What once felt impossible becomes familiar, not because the world changed, but because you did. And when the inner script changes, the stage rearranges. Let's now walk alongside someone who did just that, who moved from exhaustion and scarcity to coherence and freedom, not through magic, but through the sacred ritual of daily becoming. She was tired, not just physically, though her body carried that too. She was tired in the way only years of spiritual searching without answers can make you tired, the kind of weariness that seeps into your breath, into your bones. She had done everything right. Journals full of affirmations, years of therapy, rituals, vision boards. She spoke the language of manifestation fluently, but the abundance never stayed. It flickered, teased, then vanished again, like water through open fingers. And then something quiet shifted. Not a breakthrough, not a miracle, just a moment where she stopped trying to attract and started to embody, where she stopped reaching outward and instead closed her eyes and lived inward. Every morning, before her day began, she would sit, just 2 minutes. And in that small, sacred window, she became the woman who no longer feared money, who no longer apologized for receiving, who no longer lived in the echo of not enough. She didn't see herself winning the lottery. She didn't imagine checks in the mail. She imagined standing in a kitchen of her own, sunlight on her skin, writing a grocery list without panic. She imagined saying yes to a dinner invitation without calculating what she couldn't afford. She felt what her shoulders felt like when they were no longer bracing for the next bill. She lived that moment over and over, not with effort, but with emotion. And slowly, her body began to believe her. Her nervous system softened. Her field realigned. And then, something curious happened. Opportunities that once passed her by began to stick. Conversations shifted. Invitations came. But it wasn't the world that changed. It was the frequency she now lived in. She didn't chase abundance. She became a match for it. And from that inner coherence, life became a mirror. She was no longer surviving her story. She was rewriting it from the inside out. So, where do you begin? Not with the outcome, but with the feeling you've longed for. Already present, already real. Let's bring it all together now. The science, the soul, the stillness. Let's listen to what your field has been waiting to receive. There is a rhythm beneath your thoughts, a pulse beneath your striving, a frequency already encoded with the life you long for. Not in the future, not in some distant moment, but here, now, waiting for you to remember how to feel it. Bruce Lipton said it plainly. Beliefs shape biology. What you believe, deeply, consistently, emotionally, becomes who you are. Not just in your mind, but in your cells, in your breath, in the electromagnetic signature that surrounds you like a quiet song. Neville Goddard called it a done deal. It is finished, he would say, not because you've done it, but because the version of you who has is already living somewhere in the field, already breathing, already being. You don't manifest that version, you tune to it. And Joe Vitale reminds us, the universe doesn't respond to what you ask, it responds to what you are, not to your words, but to your coherence, not to your effort, but to your emotion. This is the power of the Imaginal act, a portal, a key, a bridge between unseen and seen, between the inner and the outer, between the longing and the landing, and it asks nothing more than this. Feel it now, not perfectly, not permanently, just once, then again, until it is no longer imagined but embodied, because you don't change your life by doing more, you change it by feeling different, by remembering the shape of wholeness within your own skin. If this touched something in you, if your body responded with a yes you didn't expect, whisper to yourself, this is mine now. Then breathe it in, let it root. And if you feel called, share this message. Subscribe. Let this not be a video, but a field, a shared signal that says, we are remembering together. This isn't something to learn, it's something to carry. You didn't just listen, you remembered.